Janesville's Craig High got a special visit from a former student today. General Andrew Poppas graduated back in 1984 and was recently named the 24th Commander of United States Army Forces Command in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. General Poppas spoke to students on the importance of leadership, saying he gained his first experiences in leading while in high school.
It was with some of the mentors that I had that helped me through decision making, how to do peer leadership, how to lead up, through the administration as student council president, and then lead level and down, like on the sports teams. And I reflect back very fondly that foundation started right here in this institution.
General Poppas now commands 216,000 active component soldiers and 190,000 members of the U.S. Army Reserve. The general also provides readiness oversight to the Army National Guard.